what should it comprise if it would truly be a partnership in the various sectors that we have mentioned over the day: agriculture, energy, raw materials, automotive. So what would be a true partnership? Danilo, you go first, perhaps?
All right, thank you very much. I think I should begin by saying thank you to United Group for this very invitation. Straight down to your question. I think a lot of points have been raised today, but just to begin with this point, all right, about the narratives that have framed this partnership over time. All right, this has been called by some authors or by some critics as a nanny partnership, a philanthropic partnership, which is not value oriented. And with the need for a paradigm shift from a donor-recipient relationship to a value-oriented relationship, we saw this feeling of disagreement and sort of humiliation from the side of the African leaders to say that, look, Europe, there is a need. And it is often said that need is the mother of invention. For instance, when there is ignorance, wisdom becomes profitable, right? The African problem becomes profitable to to Europe, because there is a problem in the first place. And that should be the beginning of a new partnership. The African leaders feel that this partnership should be based on equal bargaining powers, which is quite impossible. And this leads me to framing the point as this sort of imbalance in the power relationship between both partners. But moving forward, what should be the key points that should be, for the African leaders to note and for the European Union to note, as well as the private sector players? The first point on the new finance, the global gateway. I think that we need to begin to think about how do we leverage this finance in such a way that it solves the structural development issues in Africa. And in this sense, what do I mean? First point is that the aid should not be focused on as a sort of loan, promoting this culture of dependency. It should be defined in such a way that, with the expectation in mind that it would end one day. The fact that Africa would become economically independent, that should be the sort of thinking, whether in the mind of Europe or in the mind of Africa itself. The second point in this regard is that this financial assistance, the private sector companies should begin to think not just about the opportunistic market access in Africa, but again, how do you, this point has been raised over time, and it brings us to the economic reality of whether the European market gives access to Africa. Private sector players from the African continent also have interest in Africa. And I think this is where the policymakers also need to come in to facilitate this kind of business cooperation, to leverage this huge finance that has been put on the table. All right? And the next point again on that finance is also to bring to the point that Africa itself, the African leaders, need to also begin to think about the domestic resource mobilization strategy. Because over time, you can't get a partnership of equals. It's going to continue to be a slogan rather than a reality. When you do not also think within yourself, how do you mobilize resources within your continent? That's a very difficult question. And leads us to begin to think that the responsibility for African leaders should not be that of a transferred responsibility to external actors. And this point, moving out from finance, leads me to quickly say that I think the interest of Europe for Africa to also consider this partnership moving forward should not be motivated by the real battle for Africa between the global players, China, Russia, emerging powers like Turkey, and maybe even Japan. All right, Africa needs to see the genuineness of Europe's interest towards it. And this should not be motivated by the interests of other players on the continent. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Yeah.